Okay, so this is my project for this week. I made a glowing t-shirt thing. I didn't necessarily have the time to finish all the different pieces for it that I wanted to, but it is, this does like really show the example exactly as I wanted to. And I'm able to like pretty easily sort of take it apart and use this underneath other t-shirts, which actually in a certain way actually makes the project even better, even though it's not done. So it really is sort of two pieces. There's, I just decided to wear like another t-shirt just so I could hold it in place a lot more easily. It wasn't going to necessarily stay in place otherwise. But let me show you what I have. So I made this piece of felt that has some conductive thread sewn through it and hot glued to the front. And I'm just going to switch it off so you can see it more easily here. So there you can see an Adafruit, and you can see that I sewed in some different components here. I've got a couple of resistors there that make sure that the current flows through the various LEDs with the correct amount of power. It took me just a little bit of troubleshooting, trial and error to get all the different LEDs to light up on the two various circuits, because each side has a different circuit. So the left and the right side sort of external lights are able to turn themselves on and off separately. There you go. Doesn't always do it, but sometimes it will. That's kind of what's cool about it, is that it does have a little bit of randomness to it. I created two programs for it. One when the little switch is one way, and then a slightly different one when the switch is the other. Let me see if I can get it to activate. For some reason, my little switch here is a little bit fluky. So there's a little red LED at the top. There we go. When the red LED is showing, that means that the second program is actually running. And so you can see that there's just some weirdness to it. I'm pretty sure that some of the pins that are active for some of the other components in this project, or rather the pins that are active on the board are not only responsive to the inputs of external things, but if you power the input when it's not expecting you to power it, it might be able to accidentally activate certain features on the board. Either that, or my board is just a little bit fluky, because I'm just like, I'm like booping it, and it's just kind of like, turning on and off. So that little red light shouldn't necessarily be turning on and off like that. So I think that's a physical hardware malfunction. See, there we go. Now it's on. And then it's off again. Okay, so like I'm not really sure 100% about that bit, but like for the most part, I'm really psyched about this project. It was a lot of fun to work on the programming, getting it all to sort of glow in the way that it is. I used sine curves and math to determine when the different things are glowing, and I also utilized the sensors on the board itself. Those are also modifying those calculations for how bright the various things should be, and so it changes itself, and then you also have an effect on it. And I decided to sort of make the project be more culturally responsive through the choice of t-shirt and whatever. So the idea is that the students would be choosing t-shirts that are, something that means something to them or matters to them. So I grabbed an old thrift shop shirt that I love, but I couldn't necessarily wear just because I hate little scratchy things, and there is just a little bit of scratchiness in the collar right there. And so that's most unfortunate. But for the most part, this is my project, and this is what it looks like when it's all put together. And one moment, please. Oh. There we go. Ta-da! And as I dance around, it uses the gyroscope on the inside to get some information about how it's moving and turn on and off the lights at different times. And so the idea is that it sort of fades in and out, but based on how you move, it will sometimes cycle back and forth across those different sine waves for turning it on and off. So it's a little bit like you've got a consistent sine wave, and then as you move around, it shifts your sort of position around on that sine curve so that these different lights are showing in different ways. Maybe it'll suddenly get brighter, darker, brighter, darker, brighter, darker, brighter, darker, brighter, darker, darker, and then so you can see how as it's moving through a sine curve but shifting back and forth, it'll create some really fun variability. And so that was the idea of the project. So in case you're curious, I used the Arduino IDE over here on my computer. The Arduino IDE is a really great tool. It is much more difficult to utilize than some of the other tools that are available, and I am I chose to use it just because I thought that was the tool to use, and it turns out that there's a super easy version that is located right over here. This is the Adafruit MakeCode website. I wish I'd known this existed. I didn't realize it existed. I realized it existed this morning. So I would have developed my project on here. Instead, I developed it using the much more difficult Arduino IDE, but that was actually a great sort of an experience because it means that now this project can be utilized with lower level high school students or higher level high school students. I wouldn't necessarily utilize this project with middle school students unless I very strictly kept the students to we were only using one different type of board. They wouldn't have any choice of different types of boards, either the Adafruit or the MakeCode, or excuse me, not MakeCode, the Adafruit or the Microbit are the two options that I gave the students for this project. As over here in MakeCode, they also could utilize this, the MakeCode Microbit website, as that is a different sort of all the MakeCode websites are block-based programming, but also allow the students to transition into text-based programming languages, as it gives you the option for seeing the code written out in JavaScript instead of written out in the blocks, as is